Hey YouTube, I was going to do a video on this missing 411 thing, and I thought it goes to my mindset, this type of stuff. So I wanted to kind of show what I'm thinking here. There is a correlation, and I don't think it's been talked about yet. So I was going to go into that, just so you could see what I'm talking about. Now I'm hoping this is on this 411 by David. This is his tweet page here, Twitter page. I'm hoping he can understand the concept and not get bogged down by some of this sounds like crazy. But okay, I'll come out and say what I'm just gonna say, and then I'm hoping you won't all turn me off. Now, years back on Art Bell, they talked about there was a guy who could predict earthquakes, and he was getting seriously good at it. And essentially, what he was doing, he eventually told people how he was able to predict them so well, and he used the phases of the moon. And the now, yeah, I've looked on the internet, and there's a lot of this. It's the same thing as this 411. You can see a lot of this. They're trying to calm people down. No, it's not the phase of the moon causing earthquakes, and that wasn't quite what he said. And you're not really looking at the scientific details. What the guy was saying is the depending on the moon and its location, depends on the size of the waves that a sailor will see in the ocean and stuff. Now, when the moon gets to the right distance from the Earth, it causes bigger waves. And when you have water tables of these fault lines, and what he was really just proving is that these fault lines are getting, if you have a high water table and then the right phase of the moon, the likelihood of an earthquake is much, much higher. So that was his position. Now, my position was a little bit, I'm hoping this David can see this in his police work. And you might not see the connection here, but my thought, and I've told this to other police officers, they get really mad, but they don't understand what I'm saying. But the phase of the moon makes a difference to your police work. And okay, imagine that the phase of the moon changes. Just imagine in your mind if it can bang on a fault line and cause things that are on the edge. It doesn't actually cause the earthquake. It causes things that are on the edge to get knocked. It's like the straw that broke the camel's back. A straw didn't break the camel's back, but there's so much weight on it that one more thing did. And imagine now you have somebody who is marginally stable. In a society, they go along and they're doing good all the time because they're passing by mentally. But imagine in your police work now, you have somebody marginally stable, and your body is 90% water, higher. I don't know the exact percentage right now off the top of my head, but imagine there's waves inside. Like it would be waves in any body, right? And I actually did the measuring, and I took a look at it, and there's no way that my first thought was that neurons in your brain are misfiring and a complete miss, and there's no way it can happen. There's no matter what the wave like is. But then the thought occurred to me that we don't have all the data on the body, but in a computer system, if there is a misfiring, that's one thing. If there's a bunch of near misses almost hitting, um, if I had a system and it was just always, it was never hitting nicely, it was always hitting hitting the neuron was hitting the other neuron by 70%, the receptors, neurons hitting the receptor by 70% or 60%. I'd want to know that. I want to make adjustments. Now imagine the body is suddenly on edge because it's trying to make adjustments. It's not making the adjustments right. And the adjustments are changing from day to day. And it's not able to keep up. How much stress are you under? So yeah, I can imagine that during a phase of the moon, or during a during a well, during the distance is actually more the distance the moon is away from the Earth, and then I could see, like, if you're near another body of water, right? So, anyways, so I am certain that this guy has seen this too in his police work. That they don't like admitting this, but they're seeing it, and I think it has to do something with just how much disruption there is from. Imagine the body as a imagine your brain as a body of water, and you have a certain time of the certain period where it's going to go at a much more aggressive pace. Now, let's add something more to this. I want to show you, I haven't got all the data, but I've been following his tweets. That's why I'm starting on this his Twitter page. And he's been mentioning people that have been hit. And here's the data I have. Bunch of the names. And I'm a numbers guy, right? And these numbers are important to me. So what are you seeing here? Well, it's a distribution, and it's a distribution curve that's not right. This should be a nice bell curve of data. It should be, there should be a nice, an even distribution. And if there was a bell curve, if there was, for some reason, a hotspot, you would think you would find data on one end and an even amount on the other end, and it isn't like that. So I'm alarmed by the data. So what is this data that we're looking at? Phases of the moon. Where the moon is making a big difference as to when these things happen. So I'm just marking it off on his Twitter thing, and I'm finding gaps here. It's like even here there's a gap. This day is not hit. This day is not hit. Then one day before, and this one is, well, the numbers are right here. The names are just off of what you can see. So 7 days after a new moon is a big hit. There's a cluster of data. There's a jump. 8 days, 9 days, not hit. 10 days, once, one hit. And this is just from a very small, it's only 20 people. But I've seen the data. It's not, this is not unusual. Now you have 11 people out of the 20, not 11 people, out of the 20, 11 days after a new moon, you have the strongest hit. You are most likely to go missing on the 11th day. So the 7th day, I can go over here and show you. The 7th day is 3, 11th day is 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So now you're looking at the clustering, and it's not an even distribution, but it's a very strong indicator even on these low numbers, and I'm seeing it on the big numbers. I may have done 40 or 50 like this, and I was right away seeing it immediately. There's a clustering. Now, like, look at this, big gaps. This is something I noticed too. Right away, I noticed this. These two, I would say, David, you could actually adjust your thing and you could eliminate people that are sitting here, and even these two over here. The clusters are here and here. Now, I will pause this for just a minute and we'll see if I can get another video up. All right, I'm back. I went off to look for this little video. So this video is called Two Vortex Rings Collide. I'm imagining that the moon is causing a waveform. It's causing a wave coming down to the earth, hitting it. And your body of water that you talk about in 411, imagine that that is acting like a drum and sending something back. What would happen if two waves are coming and collapsing and hitting each other repeatedly? Well, let's have a look. What would happen? So that's just how I'm going to end this here. Have a look at this. Imagine two waves, one coming from the moon, one coming from the earth, hit like that. And you're starting to see that it could be possible that we could get a vortex, right? Little vortexes where the collision happens. And you could have something a little different happening. So that is, see, we can repeat the experiment over and over again in a lab. And you're going to get this happening. Little rings of vortexes. So we have an idea now where things are happening. And yeah, this is happening in the air. It's not happening in a fluid like it's happening here. But fluid dynamics works the same in air as it does anywhere else. Anyways, my thought is that there is a correlation to the data of when things are happening. And I was just thinking, if I could have the data, if I could have all the data and we could get somebody to take and see, I started it here like this, and I really had some trouble here because I didn't have it quite written correctly. So I had to re-figure out what all this said. But if I could have all the names and the exact day that something happened to them, then I can then go and check the moon phases and see exactly where they are for that date. Anyways, David, it's my thought. It's a little idea I have. I would like just the raw data of all the people's names, just like a sheet of data. And I'm not quite sure with your books and that. I've kind of seen some of the stuff, but I'm not seeing like that nice little compact data thing. And my thought is that I could, once we know, we might know a lot more. And here's another idea I have. Like, suppose you're right. Suppose everything you're saying is right, and you have these entities that are moving in, grabbing people. What if it's not them moving in? What if it's us moving out? What if we phase out and we're in a different environment and they're just doing their thing? What if we're invading their area with these like accidentally, yes, but what if we don't actually know that we aren't moving into their area, these missing form one? So that's sort of opposite thinking, right? Like, so instead of these instead of something coming into our area, some alien type thing coming into our area, what if we're entering into theirs? And then that would make sense what the military is saying, like, but back off from this area because you're not actually going, and they don't want people knowing what's happening, but what if the area is not Earth? What if this causes the area to change? Anyways, my idea. Thanks.